Hi, and welcome to the third episode of Secrets in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. God Ki is a rare form of energy typically wielded by divine beings. Sakais, angels, and gods of destruction all possess it. Goku and Vegeta gained theirs by ascending to their god forms. There are a few others, but more on them in a little bit. One of the most notable traits of God Ki is that it's completely undetectable to those with regular Ki. At least, that's how it works in the show. But what about the games? Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. Just like last time, Goku will be placed underwater, but this time, he'll be in his god form. And on the other side, we have Krillin. Normally, Krillin should have no problem pinpointing Goku's location. But what happens when Goku switches to his god form? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seconds is all it takes. Krillin will lose focus if a God Ki character is out of his sight for more than 7 seconds. And Krillin's not the only one. Any other character without the ability to sense God Ki will struggle to maintain focus on Goku's energy. All the while Goku is playing games on his phone?
I'm going to enjoy this!
This video is brought to you by the Red Magic 10 Pro, commonly referred to as the phone from the future. The phone features an impressive 95.3% screen-to-body ratio, with the front camera cleverly concealed beneath the display. There are no camera bumps. For a phone designed primarily for gaming, the camera is surprisingly top-notch. Oh, and there's a virtual assistant, Mora. By flipping this red switch on the side, we will enter the gaming mode, or as it's called, Game Space. Here you'll discover a wide range of customizable options to enhance your experience. One of my favorite features are the shoulder triggers, which significantly reduce much of that mobile gaming clunkiness. Believe it or not, this was my first time playing Legends. Yep, I'll let you guys know how much I like it after I put more hours into it. Now, if you're concerned about power consumption, the Red Magic 10 has you covered. The phone is equipped with 100 watts fast charging, powered by a 7050 mAh battery, providing up to 52 hours of power. The upgraded IceX liquid metal cooling system ensures your device won't overheat. And here's my favorite part about this phone. Does this game look familiar? Yep, it's Budokai 3. Not a fan of touch controls? No worries, just plug in your controller and you're good to go. Game Space lets you map your controls so you can play just like you would on a console. The specs on this phone are so impressive that I wouldn't be surprised if we're able to play Sparking Zero soon. It's worth noting that they achieved all these performance improvements without increasing the prices from the previous generation. So why not grab one for yourself? The Red Magic 10 Pro is available worldwide in various editions and colors. Be sure to check out the Red Magic 10 Pro by using my link in the description or the pinned comment. Alright, we've established that characters without the ability to sense God Ki will have difficulty maintaining focus on Goku's location. Interestingly, scouters seem to be able to track their targets effectively, despite being unable to detect godly Ki, at least according to the lore. Moreover, their tracking range appears to be the same for both normal Ki and godly Ki. The same goes for the androids, who were created long before God Ki was introduced, yet have no trouble keeping their God Ki targets in focus. If we were to assume that both the scouters and the androids' energy sensors weren't actually detecting godly Ki, but instead functioned like X-ray goggles of sorts, allowing them to track their targets through enhanced visual capabilities rather than by focusing on energy, then sure, that could make sense. But again, we've never seen them actually function like that, at least to my knowledge. Aside from androids and scouters, the God Ki mechanic functions exactly as you'd expect. Characters with access to God Ki are able to sense other God Ki users without any issues. We got Whis, Beerus, Happo, Zamasu, Goku, and Vegeta. The best aspect of the God Ki sensing mechanic is its unparalleled sensing range. Old model scouters lose focus in this area. Androids have slightly better range. New model scouters are a bit above androids' energy sensors, and at the very top are God Ki users, boasting incredible reach. For a Ki designed to be wielded by divine beings, I guess it only makes sense that it would have the greatest reach. One final point of debate is Hit. Despite not possessing God Ki, he was shown to sense Goku's energy when Goku used Kaioken on top of his Super Saiyan Blue form. You could argue that Hit wasn't sensing God Ki itself, but rather the immense raw pressure generated by Kaioken. Personally, I lean more towards this explanation, though both interpretations are plausible. Interestingly, Sparking Zero seems to support the latter, as Hit is unable to sense Goku's God Ki once Goku moves out of his line of sight. But here's the twist. Goku also loses track of Hit. it. He's not an android, and he certainly has natural ki. I don't know, perhaps an oversight by the devs? Curious to hear what you guys have to say. When you activate Sparking Mode, you gain several perks. Unlimited Ki Blasts, immunity to all Ki Blasts except for Slash type ones, infinite dash reserves, and in some cases, certain characters even gain super armor. Even though you gain a bunch of perks, you receive no damage buffs, which is a bit strange. But considering how powerful the Sparking state is in this game, maybe it's for the best. There is, however, one exception to this rule, or perhaps two, depending on how you look at it. Kid Gohan and Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan. When either of these two characters enter Sparking Mode, they immediately gain 3 types of buffs: a damage buff, an energy buff, and a ki buff. But here's the catch. The only way to gain any kind of buffs in this game is by activating a Blast Moon utility, like full power for instance. However, Kid Gohan and Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan break this rule by gaining buffs automatically just by entering Sparking Mode. No other character, not even other versions of Gohan, can receive buffs simply by powering up to the max. These two are the sole exceptions. So what exactly makes these two forms so special? Why were they given special treatment? I even checked the explanation of control section to see if there was any mention of it, but no luck. However, I do have a very plausible theory. Rage. How did Gohan overpower Raditz? Rage. How did Gohan overpower second form Frieza? Rage. How did Gohan awaken Super Saiyan 2? Rage. Gohan's full power has always been tied to his rage, at least prior to the Buu saga. This likely explains why his adult form doesn't receive any buffs upon entering Sparking Mode. Among all the characters in the series, Gohan experiences the most significant power-ups when he's enraged, so it makes sense that the versions of him that heavily relied on rage are the ones that get these buffs when reaching max power. But again, it's just a theory. Do you like playing Sparking Zero online but hate dealing with cheese strats? Although I may not have a solution for every type of cheese in the game, I do have a solution for one that's particularly common, mainly because people aren't fully aware of the potential of a certain mechanic. Berserk, Kale, and Kefla are among the most frequently used characters in single battles. Their primary strategy involves activating Sparking and using their ultimate while you're stuck in recovery or any other animation that prevents you from blocking. At first glance, this seems like something any other character might do. For instance, SS4 Gogeta could also use a leg sweep and hit you with this Big Bang Kamehameha times 100 while you're stuck in a recovery animation. What sets their strategy apart from anyone else's? Well, in short, their ultimate is an explosive wave type move. Why is that important? Imagine Gogeta using a ground slash followed by his ultimate while you're stuck in a recovery animation. A simple after image, wild sense, or a well-timed vanish could easily let you evade the blast. But if you try any of those on an explosive wave ultimate, yeah, not looking too hot. There's no escape in that situation. Sure, their ultimate is blockable, but they won't use it unless they're absolutely certain it will hit. And if they play their cards right, it will. They hardly need to fight, as their ultimates can easily wipe out nearly 3 entire health bars. To make matters worse, Berserk Kale has a stun utility move and gains super armor in Sparking. These two characters are highly effective, especially Kale, which is why they're so common in higher ranks. However, their playstyle isn't foolproof.
Somehow or another, one of them got through, and that means there's a blind spot.
There's no escaping the explosion wave with the Vanish, Wild Sense, or even After Image. You'll just end up teleporting somewhere within the blast radius and get caught in the explosion. However, a simple After Image strike can do the trick. Unfortunately, After Image strike costs 4 skill points, and not everyone has it. If only there were a way to give every character access to After Image strike in that situation. There is. By now, I'm sure everyone knows that everything is vanishable in Sparking Zero. Supers, rush attacks, ultimates, you name it. So if everything is vanishable, why did I say you can't escape Kale and Kefla's ultimates with a Vanish? See, the thing is, a Vanish. Singular. You'll need to use multiple vanishes to get away, just like After Image Strike. After Image Strike is a sequence of perfectly timed vanishes that lasts for 10 seconds. Believe it or not, we can achieve the same result without After Image, and it's actually not that complicated. Let me show you how it looks first.
Times 10, Kamehameha!
Yeah, it looks like I'm using After Image, but I'm not. Let me play a different clip but with my hands on the controller. I've developed a rhythm that allows me to pull this off fairly consistently. The first 2 vanishes require precise timing, but once you nail those, you need to perform about 7 more. Don't worry though, those next 7 Vanish inputs are spammable, so as long as you don't spam the remaining 7 inputs as a maniac, you'll be good to go. Assuming both you and your opponent have a stable connection, this could be your best option in situations where you're trapped in an animation that prevents you from blocking. And if you successfully pull it off, you can easily punish them with a simple super attack. It took me about an hour to figure out the rhythm, and despite how insane it looks, it's actually a pretty easy mechanic to pull off. Now, if those remaining 7 inputs weren't spammable, it'd be a whole different story. Fortunately, they are. Also, for Vegeta's final explosion, you only have to perform a single vanish, but the timing there is kind of hard to make out. And here's the thing, you don't even need to do the whole 9 vanishes thing. That's just if you want to flex on your opponent and punish them with a free super or ult. You essentially only need to do a single vanish, then hold block. Do keep in mind, if you block, you won't be able to punish it, as they will recover before you can launch a super. A massive shout out to Grandmaster Hawk for providing a demonstration. You can find his explanation video down in the description. In the previous episode of Secrets in Sparking Zero, we explored the Scouter break mechanic. If your character power level is high enough, the Scouter will break as soon as you enter Sparking mode. However, if your character has a DP cost of 2 or lower, they won't be able to break it. It's a pretty neat detail, but there's even more depth to it. In that video, I focused solely on testing Scouter Vegeta, a character who uses the old model Scouters. Out of curiosity, I decided to run the same test on a character with a new model Scouter, like Jace for example. After all, the newer Scouters have greater range. What if they also have greater durability? I selected Jace and paired him with Kid Gohan, a 3 DP cost character. And as mentioned earlier, 3 DP cost characters will break old model Scouters upon entering Sparking mode. So let's see what happens when we try the same thing with a new model Scouter. Well, would you look at that? It didn't break. So not only do they have greater detection range, but they are also more durable. Unfortunately, the newer Scouters aren't significantly more durable, as selecting a 4 DP cost character still causes them to break. Old model Scouters have a cap of 22,000 before breaking, which is why they break when we select a 3 DP cost character. In contrast, new model Scouters can handle power levels up to 180,000 before exploding.
What happened, Sarban?
I'm not entirely certain. A malfunction, perhaps. I had my Scouter tuned to Vegeta, but it just showed a power level of over 22,000.
Oh, come on. I told you should have upgraded your Scouter to one of the new models like mine.
Sparking Zero's training explanation includes a short article detailing the Z search mechanic, also known as the key/energy sensing mechanic. If we scroll down to the Z search while underwater section, there's a particularly interesting note. Your key charge speed will also be reduced while underwater. There are some characters whose key charging speed is even more negatively affected by water, while others is positively affected. This isn't new information, as it's been known since the PS2 era of the Tenkaichi games that charging underwater reduces everyone's charging speed by roughly 50%. In Tenkaichi 3, Cyberman was the only character to charge faster underwater, and in Sparking Zero, he remained the fastest, but still experienced a 20% charge reduction instead of the usual 50. However, the Z-Search Underwater article specifically mentions characters in plural. This implies there are more characters besides Cybermen. But who? Some people in my comments have mentioned that Namekians charge faster underwater, which didn't really make sense to me. Before releasing the first episode where I discussed the charging underwater mechanic, I actually tested this with Piccolo. He charged 33% slower underwater compared to his normal charging speed on land. Nevertheless, I decided to give it a second look. I made the mistake of assuming Piccolo would have the same charging speed as every other Namekian. So let's see what happens if we select Nail. Huh? 20% slower? While he's not charging faster than on land, a 20% reduction is still impressive, as it ties with Cyberman for the lowest charge reduction. Alright, we still have one more Namekian left, Lord Slug. 20% 30%. It appears to be a perk exclusive to the Namekians. I suppose it makes sense. They live on a planet that's 90% water and don't need food, fulfilling their nutritional needs through water instead. But why doesn't Piccolo enjoy the same benefits? A 33% reduction is still better than 50, but you'd expect him to have the same charging values as Snail and Slug. It's a bit odd, but I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it is. In any case, here's a fun little interaction I discovered while doing these tests.
Rare to see so many skilled Namekian warriors in one place. In fact, I'm pretty interested to see what they can really do.
I'm sorry, but I won't go easy.
No mercy, even for a fellow Namekian!
Super Perception is often exclusively used to counter melee attacks and revenge counters that I tend to forget it also has other applications. If your opponent is spamming super rushes, a well-timed Perception can negate their rush and send them flying with a counter attack. It's not free though, as you will need to cough up 2 skill points to use it. Or how about Beam Deflections? One of the coolest looking mechanics and a core part of that Dragon Ball experience ends up rarely being used because dashing to evade or vanishing is far more practical than spending 2 skill points on a flashy deflect animation. It's a shame because the devs actually put in the effort to create quite a few unique deflect animations. This is the default deflect animation used by 90% of the characters in the game. Similarly, this is the default deflect animation while standing on the ground, and like the previous one, it's also shared by 90% of the cast. And now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the good stuff. If you attempt to deflect a super with a smaller or a joke type character, they'll do this cute little animation that makes it look like they barely managed to pull it off. Whenever I see this deflect animation, the first thing that comes to mind is the scene where Gohan deflected the Spirit Bomb, though I'm not entirely sure if that's the reference. Krillin has it as well. A bit disrespectful, but I mean, he does fit the bill. Alright, I just took a closer look, and while Krillin does use the same two-handed deflection, he doesn't get pushed back like the other smaller characters. So yeah, he beat the height allegations, at least in this game. It goes without saying that Videl and Mr. Satan are incapable of deflecting any supers. Tien is pretty funny because he doesn't have a unique deflect animation and instead uses the standard ground deflect animation. He pretty much tanks it. He's just that guy, I guess. Every member of Frieza's race will perform the same deflect animation that Frieza used when he deflected Vegeta's final burst cannon. Bobby D, Kid Goten, and Trunks used the same animation as Krillin. Guess he's not beating those allegations after all. Yamcha and Kale do something similar to the smaller characters, but with a slight animation change. Vegito and SS4 Gogeta deflect the blast by kicking it away because of course they would. Regular Gogeta uses the default deflect animation, but with a bit more oomph. Merge Zamasu and Whis elegantly toss it aside, which is kind of fitting for their character. UI Goku does something similar, except with less elegance and more of a nonchalant vibe. Super Saiyan 3 Goku deflects it the same way he deflected Boo's Kamehameha in the show. Future Gohan uses his right leg to kick the blast away because yeah. And finally, Broly. Can you guess what Broly does? He just eats it. No battle damage, scratches, nothing. An obvious reference to the first Broly movie, when he tanked Goku's Kamehameha point blank and then proceeded to grab him by the hair. Here's a fun little detail I just noticed. On the default main menu screen, the one with Beerus, Whis, and everyone hanging out at Bulma's place. Whenever you land with Goku, he waves 3 times. Once to Goten and Trunks, once to Chi-Chi and Bulma, and a quirky third wave to Vegeta. Everyone responds in their own way. Goten says hi, Chi-Chi waves back enthusiastically, and Vegeta seems to do nothing. Or so I thought. No, he doesn't actually ignore him. Instead, he acknowledges him with the nod. That actually caught me off guard since I'm so used to Vegeta giving everyone the classic In fact, he'll even turn his head away when Bulma waves at him. But Goku, he gets the nod. Here's something I'm not exactly sure if it's one of the most clever Easter eggs or just a random coincidence. So, in Sparking Zero, most characters performing a Kamehameha simply position their hands to the side and start charging right away. However, GT Goku stands out. He actually does the whole prep sequence before charging it. On top of that, he's the only character with unique facial animations during a regular non-cutscene Kamehameha. Why is that important? Well, I believe it's a subtle nod to a specific moment from one of the classic Dragon Ball movies. Dragon Ball Path to Power. In Path to Power, when Android 8 died, Goku was overcome with sadness and rage, unleashing one of the rawest Kamehamehas of all time. The only thing missing to confirm it's a direct reference to that moment is that he doesn't extend his arms to the sides before preparing the Kamehameha. You could argue though that doing so would make the attack take too long to execute and wouldn't really work as a charge attack. I agree, and that's when I started to theorize that it was originally intended to be a cinematic attack. That said, they managed to make Vegito's God Kamehameha work, even with its longer animation. However, Vegito doesn't have any unique facial animations, which further supports my theory. It has to be a reference to the Path of Power movie, right? Why else would they bother creating unique Kamehameha animations that resemble those from the movie, along with unique facial expressions when no other character got that treatment? And yes, I'm aware that Goku from movie 17 and GT Goku are two completely different versions of the character, despite wearing the same outfit. The only time this move was adapted into a Dragon Ball game was in Infinite World, where GT Goku used it as his ultimate, not Kid Goku. So yeah, that's why I think they intended to do something similar in Sparking Zero, but ended up scrapping the idea, leaving us with what's left. Either way, I believe the entire pose combined with a facial expression is a reference to the movie. Or maybe I'm just overanalyzing it. That's gonna be it for this one. Took me a bit to release this episode, but the next will be coming out much sooner. Probably around the time the first DLC is released. Until then, take care.